I have the pleasure of knowing Walter and Kathy Doyle for almost 40 years. During that time, this amazing couple has exemplified the Christian ideal, helping those in need and making a huge difference in the lives of so many. They are co-directors of Urban Missionaries of Our Lady of Hope, based at 242 Canterbury Street, Worcester, Massachusetts. During this program, you will learn what the Urban Missionaries are all about. It is my pleasure to introduce Walter and Kathy Doyle and Director of Operations, Charlie O'Neill. Welcome to Close to Home, Northborough. I live in a town where you can still hear church bells chime on a Sunday morning, where families gather with pride to watch their children grow like flowers in the sun. We honor the brave who sacrificed for our country and those who continue to serve and protect us. In the spirit of love, belonging, and acceptance, this program was created. I'm Marie Wyman, and welcome to Close to Home. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
First off, we want to thank you for being guests on our program today and offer our congratulations on your anniversary and all the years of service that you all have done for the people of Worcester and surrounding areas. So let's start with Walter. Walter and I have known each other, as I've said, for quite a while. And Walter has some very, very wonderful information about how this organization has started. Walter, you're saying we want to benefit the least, the last, and the left out. Mm-hmm. Tell me about how it started and everything that you've done.
Okay, well, it started back in 1979. I was studying to be a deacon in the Diocese of Worcester, and Father Paul Togas, who was the director at the time, said, hey, we have to sponsor some Vietnamese families. And at that time, Vietnamese boat people were all over the news. They were in every newspaper, on TV every night. These people were sailing from Vietnam out into the middle of the ocean, waiting for some ship to come by to pick them up. And so we sponsored a family through Catholic Charities. There are 13 members of the family, and we put them at Barlin Acres up in Boylston, the retreat center at that time, the Youth Retreat Center, because they had plenty of rooms, and everything was going well. We had a big committee of 15 couples. They were all willing to work. And about 4 days into it, I got a call from Bill Drogo, who was the chairman of the committee. He said, Walter, we have a problem. And I said, what's the problem, Bill? He said, the family has to get out of Barlin Acres. There's been a scheduling error, and we need someplace to move them. And I said, well, move them to my house. I have a big house up here in Barry. We have lots of room, we have plenty of room. Be more than welcome. Oh, no, we can't do that. It's going to impose too much on your family. You know, it just won't work. I'm saying, okay, Bill, thank you. So we hung up. 2 days later, I got a call back. It's Bill. He says, hi, Walter. I said, hey, Bill, what's going on? He says, when can we move the family in? You know? And I said, bring them up. Just all you have to do is bring the beds up. And,
guess who's coming to dinner?
Yeah. And they came and they lived with us for about 6 weeks.
Oh.
And we had a great time. We couldn't speak English. We couldn't speak Vietnamese. They couldn't speak English. We were using the Sears catalog to name things. The kids got along tremendously, except for my youngest, Elizabeth, who had a hard time sharing her toys. So she would grab them out of the other kids' hands and just stand there and growl at them. We had a little work to do there, so we had a lot of good time. Then we moved them into the city of Worcester. Got them settled, got the kids into school, took care of some dental issues with one of the children, and moved on. And then we said, well, how about another family? And Father Paul said, yeah, another family. And so he said to the committee, we're going to do another family. Well, then the only people that showed up for the next meeting was Kathy and I and Father Paul. So we sponsored a family of 3 boys
Oh.
who had left their family back in Vietnam, and brought them into the city. They lived with us for a short period of time, got them an apartment, got them settled, and then we said, oh, how about another family? And
Just kept going.
Father Paul said, have a good time. And so we just kept going. And
Yeah, you just kept going.
We had about 10, 15 families come through our house. And as in all things, things started to grow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you get involved with people's lives, they come back to you and say, we have a problem with this, we have a problem with that. And so it just kept going and expanding. We were doing refugee resettlement at a grand scale, you know, during the 70s, 80s, early 80s,
Right.
mid-80s, yeah.
Right. That's
Yeah.
that's when I remember you guys,
Right.
and, you know, we got involved then.
Right.
You were called the refugee apostle.
Right, right.
Correct?
We were called the Refugee Apostle of the Office of Permanent Diaconate when we first started. Father Paul was trying to protect us. There had never been anything like this in the diaconate program before, and so he was really watching over us. We then moved on to just the Refugee Apostolate, and then we grew into a much more larger organization. We were doing a lot of different programs, and I had a great devotion to Our Lady of Hope from my time in the seminary with the Oblates of Mary Immaculate. And so I said, well, let's go under the guidance of Our Lady of Hope, and we started to talk about that. We even called our place Our Lady of Hope Center.
I was curious about how that happened.
Yeah. The better part of it, though, is we were out looking for a building because the building room was too small.
Right.
And we were talking to one of the building owners, and he said, well, tell me something about yourselves. And we went through and we gave him the talk, you know, and he said to me, he just sat there, and he listened, he said, you guys are urban missionaries.
Wow.
And that just
Didn't
kind
know
of
that.
stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just kind of
Isn't
stuck.
that
So we're now the
something?
Urban Missionaries of Our Lady of Hope,
Right.
coming on to like about 15 years now. And she has really blessed us magnificently. It just keeps growing, and the works keep going, and you know, people keep coming to the door looking for help.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a need, as we talked about previous to
Right.
this.
The need, yeah, the need is there. There's no doubt about the need. And it hasn't diminished from the day we first started to today. There's always somebody that needs some help, you know, and we developed an attitude that we would never say no to anybody who needed help, asked us for help. And so we found out, you know, lots of different things. Some things we could help them with and solve their problem. Some things we had to research and find other people to help them solve
Right.
their problems, you
Right.
know. But they were always welcome, you know, and that hasn't changed.
So what I'm hearing is that, you know, because of the strong faith that you and Kathy have when this all began, this is a testimony and it's a witness to what can be done by 2 people or even 1 person, as long as they're willing to do it.
Right.
And that's what I'm hearing.
Well,
Do you
there's another side of us that you can't really ignore, and that is the amount of volunteers that we've had over the years. Numbers in the thousands.
right?
I mean, this past Christmas, like 175 volunteers came in to help us at Christmas time. I mean, you know, we have lots of volunteers.
Now, did you want to talk about that, the program, you know, how it evolved? I know the Christmas program, the part of it that I was involved with, it has really grown.
Right.
You know, it's
Well, it
grown.
started off with 27 gifts. We were visiting a family right after Christmas, and we noticed that they didn't have any Christmas stuff. They were a Catholic family. They didn't have any Christmas trees or anything like that. And we said, well, why not? Well, they didn't understand. They didn't know what to do. So we said, okay, we'll help you out. So we started the next year. And we, you know, helped them get a Christmas tree, got some decorations, called up all of our friends and said, hey, could you get a size 6T coat for a little girl?
Right.
We need it for Christmas. And we got 27 gifts, brought them down. And Kathy has a great story about when she was delivering those gifts.
So in the early days of the Christmas program, we delivered
Right.
all of the gifts.
Right.
You were
Right.
around then.
Yeah.
That.
So so I piled my van. My daughter and I piled our van with gifts, and we brought them to this one family, and we didn't know them. We just had received their names. And we stopped and we knocked on the door, and they opened the door, really a house full of kids. And we gave them all the gifts, and they opened the bags while we were there, and you know, they were gifts and they were wrapped, and there was excitement,
Yeah.
and the kids were
Chaos.
jumping up and down.
Happy chaos.
It was so fun. It was so fun. So we
Yeah.
went out to the car and we drove away, and we were just smiling to ourselves. Well, then, lo and behold, at the end of the day, I went to pull the seats up on my van, and there's another bag, and it was for that family.
Oh, my.
So I drove back to the house, and I went in and knocked on the door, and the little boy answered the door. When he saw
Right.
me, it was
Yeah,
like,
you were-
whoa, this is happening again.
He's that lady.
Yeah, so that was so fun. So then he got all excited and gave him the bag. Then I drove home, and I went to, I don't know, I did something in the back of the van, and there's another bag stuck under the seat. So the next
I love
morning,
it.
I drove back to the house in the morning, and the little boy must have saw me pull up in front of the house, because he came running out of the house in bare feet and pajamas, and he was jumping
Just-
2 feet off the
He'll
ground.
never forget you as long as he lives. He probably.
Well, I'll never forget him either.
And you know what?
Yeah.
He probably tells stories too.
Y-
You know,
maybe.
he probably tells the same
About
story,
the-
right?
About
That lady
the
who
time.
comes back.
That lady. I
Yeah.
remember this lady when I was a kid.
It was so.
That's
it was
wonderful.
So fun.
What a wonderful story.
Yeah.
That just lights your heart up.
It
When you
does.
hear stories like that, it
Yeah.
makes you, it feel like there is a spirit,
Yeah,
where
it was.
we have it. It's there. It's really there. But
Right. Yeah.
Walter, I know you and Kathy have done the Christmas program. I remember how much chaos it used to be trying to get all the gifts out and the tags, and I mean, tell us about that too. I mean,
Well,
the
it's-
tags are critical. It's a critical component.
Right.
Getting people signed up, and it's just, gosh, it's just an undertaking. Tell us about that a little bit.
In a snapshot, we start the first Saturday in October, start taking Christmas names. We light up our building with Christmas lights. We put up our Christmas trees and decorations. We start playing Christmas music. We set up our creche.
Yeah, I saw the
people walk
creche.
into the store, and it's Christmas time.
Everything's
Yeah.
Christmas.
The 6th of October, and we go through it every week. And people come in to sign up every day from 10 to 3, Monday through Saturday.
That's great.
And we just keep bringing them in, and they keep signing up.
All the
and-
way to December
That's just-
23rd.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah, we go right. We're the only program that really lasts long. We sign up right up to December 23rd.
Wow.
On December 23rd, we had like 14 families sign up.
Wow.
Okay, it turned out to be about 29 children.
Wow.
On the very last day.
The very last day.
Yeah,
That's
it's
an
almost
amazing
100
feat.
kids, yeah.
And the
Now-
sad part is on the next day, on the 24th in the morning, we're there just passing out gifts for the people that might have had a problem or something. And the lady knocked at the door and she wanted to sign up.
Oh,
I mean, it's that kind of a program. So
Yeah,
it has its good points in the sun.
Yeah.
But we take all those names, we put them into a computer, we generate these 2x4 tags with the name of the child on them, and we send them out to the giving trees. We have about 44 giving
and
trees.
that's local
Local churches.
churches,
Local
because our
churches.
church, St. Rose,
Yeah,
does-
local
yeah.
churches, local
Some
businesses.
Yeah.
Some businesses as well. Mm-hmm.
Some families, and then we do a great Christmas appeal drive
Mm-hmm.
that helps us get cash so we can buy gifts.
Right.
Then the second Sunday of Advent, the gifts start to come in, and they come in truckloads.
truckloads
We bring in
is right.
3,000 or 4,000 gifts on the second Sunday and on the third Sunday, and then during the week we bring in another 2,000 or 3,000.
Wow.
So it's a lot of work there, and that's where all the volunteers come in. They're just marvelous. They come in. Christmas volunteers are Christmas volunteers. They come back year after year after year after year. The longest one we had was Paul Moran. I think he ran up
Yes.
to 32 years.
Yes.
Paul came every single Christmas with his
Yes.
kids, and
Yeah.
helped. So those are our Christmas volunteers, and they know what is expected. They know the process. We are very diligent about making sure that that child gets the proper gift, okay, and gets enough gifts.
Right.
We go anywhere from 3 to 5 to 6 gifts per child.
Wow.
And that a family is balanced.
Yes.
And that not
That's
everybody gets a
important.
basketball.
I remember you saying that
Right.
before.
Right.
That's right.
So that's all going, and we have checkers, Kathy and her team of checkers. And the bags kids put their gifts in.
Right.
We have volunteer kids that come in, they run up the hallway and they grab the gifts. So you saw the rooms
Yeah,
yesterday.
right.
Come back, they put them in the bags, they line the bags up, and then the checking starts. The checker goes through and tries to verify that this bag is the correct
Contains,
child
right, yeah.
age, correct sex, and there's not a duplicate gift in that bag. Goes on to the next bag. Then another checker comes along and says, this is the family, and they go through and they check to see, is it in balance?
Right.
Do I have 3 basketballs, or do I have 4 dollies? Or,
Yeah,
and they make
right.
changes to them as they see fit. Then the final checker comes along and just eyeballs everything and ties the bags together. We tie the child bag up, each of the child bags up, then we tie the children's bags into a family bag. And that's how we control it. This year we had 5 errors, okay,
Wow.
yeah,
That's nothing
almost, yeah.
compared to
1,900, about 1,900 kids,
1,900.
yeah.
Wow.
We had 5 errors.
Wow.
And we're not sure, some of those errors, the mothers didn't have the correct size when they told us or what, but
Right.
we had 5 exchanges.
But that's extraordinary when you stop and think about that statistic.
It's not
Only
bad.
5
Yeah.
problems and
Right.
all thousands of gifts.
Right.
That's
Right.
amazing.
And now we have, Christmas is now passed, and now we have the task of saying thank you to everybody. So we have, Christmas doesn't really end for us until like the second week of February. And then it kind of goes away.
That's funny when
September.
you say it kind of goes away. My son always said Walter is the real secret Santa. And Walter says, don't tell anybody, you know. That's the funny thing. But the part that the component, when I saw the offices and everything is so different than what it was back in
Back in the
Oh,
day.
it was.
in the
It
beginning.
is.
That was a gargantuous thing to do.
Right.
That whole project was just. I remember some of the times the weather,
The weather is the
killer.
It's a
the
killer.
uncontrolled
Yeah,
variable.
right.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
tell us about that time you had so much snow. There was like you didn't know what to do with yourself.
Yeah, it was the winter of
What
08.
year was that?
The winter of 08, when we had the big ice storms
storm,
up in the North County. So northern Worcester, starting out Tatnick Square area and going up
Right.
is all ice and snow.
High elevation there
Yeah,
anyway.
and all along
right.
Route 2. Well, unfortunately, that was a Saturday night, and so Sunday, nobody went to church because the roads were so bad. Well, if they don't go to church, then the gifts don't come back, okay? And we sent trucks out, not knowing how bad it was, and we had a crew up on the North County. They were out there almost 7 hours, and they came back with about 12 gifts. I mean, it was just a very bad situation.
Yeah, yeah.
And so and there's nothing we can do about that. We have to wait a week now for those gifts to come in. So we can't make bags up. We can't fill bags. We just have
Right.
to sit
So it's a
and
real-
patiently
It was a
wait.
marathon.
That was a marathon. is
Yeah,
right.
and then when that came back in, we were working every night, 10, 11 o'clock,
Unbelievable.
7 in the morning to 10, 11 o'clock, just trying to get those bags ready to go and out the door in time. We did it.
Yeah.
God blessed us. We did
Yeah.
it, you know.
You did. You always did.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that's
Yep.
the miracle
Yeah,
of Christmas because
Yep.
that's the point of no return. You
Right.
can't go back.
That's right.
Once you commit yourself to all these people,
That's right.
and that you have to produce the product.
Right.
It's just no, there's no going back. But that's an amazing thing.
But it's also thanks to so many volunteers who knew what we were facing and came to help.
Do you have any idea how many volunteers a rough estimate when you put on the Christmas program? How many people come in and out?
It's
for
about,
volunteers.
Yeah.
It runs between 150 to 200, 225.
amazing.
yeah, it is amazing.
That's an amazing number of people
It is.
to help. Really,
Yeah.
you say here that we tell people the least, the last, and the left out. That really, as a writer and someone who, you know, when I talk to people, it means a lot to have key words that will tell a person a lot about that
Right.
person and
Right.
what they do. And that sentence, and the other sentence that I remember that you used to always say is, everyone deserves nice things.
Right.
Those two things, that's what I associate with
Right.
this organization. And the little store, I mean, you know, to me,
Yeah.
that's the heart. You know, we talked about it briefly, but
Yeah.
that's the heart.
Well, that's our portal into poor people. That's how we meet these people that need help. You know, the store is open, they come in and they buy things, and Charlie can talk to you about that. But we meet people who need things, and then
Right.
over time we get to know them a little bit better. And then all of a sudden it starts to get into the personal issues.
Right.
And we then can start to help.
But the whole thing, you know, you talk about different aspects of the organization. If you had one point in the organization, that one thing where you feel it's extremely important, you know, it sticks out in your mind always. It's always there. What would you say? I'm just curious.
I think we would say that you're always welcome. And we have a mural up on our wall that says, you know, all are welcome in this place, everybody,
Right,
you know, and we don't differentiate on anybody,
right,
no matter what.
right.
And so that I think is a moniker for us, that we accept anybody and we don't say no,
That's
You know?
that's the key.
you know.
We'll talk about that as we go along, because this program will be hopefully extended beyond the usual time that we do it, because there's a lot of information to go over and
Sure.
cover, and we want the public, you know, to understand what you're about.
Sure.
If you feel there is something that you want to talk about, you know, that
Well, I
we
think-
may not have talked about, but you want to bring up, feel free to do
Well,
that
I think
too.
Charlie can talk to the, we have programs, okay? We call them social action programs, based upon needs that we see.
Right,
So the Christmas program
Right.
came from seeing a need.
Right.
Okay. The little store came, kind of had a funny beginning in that it was started by two Catholic workers who said there should be a place in Worcester where people can get free clothes. Okay, and they convinced the landlord to let them have a small store space, and within a month that store space was full of clothes, top to bottom, and people would come in and take them, and there were free clothes. The only problem was that on the second month, the landlord said, "How about the rent?" And they said, "Well, you should forgive the rent because we're doing such a great thing." Well, that didn't fly very well.
yeah, that didn't go
And-
over.
And it didn't go over very well with the electric company or the gas company.
I wouldn't think so.
No.
So they said, well, we're going to shut it down because we can't do anything else. But Kathy and I talked about it, and we said, this is really a great idea, a very important idea, okay? So let's go talk to Director Father Bill Sanders at the time, and we went and we said, we would like to try to keep this going, to see if it is possible to do. And so he said, okay, give it a shot, but you can't have any money. So we went out and we found
I love that.
we went
I
and we
love
found
that.
somebody who was willing to pay the light and the heat, okay? And we ran it for a few months that way.
At the same time, Walter was stationed at St. Catherine of Sweden
I remember
Church
that.
in Quincy Village, and we were storing furniture in the basement of the rectory for families that we were sponsoring.
Wow.
And it was so crowded in the basement that Father George couldn't get to his washer and dryer. So So it seemed an appropriate time to look for another space.
Oh,
That
God.
we could combine all of those things.
That's amazing
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah.
And we used to be free, but then we started, we had Ed Hall, who was the president of the Worcester Rotary Club at the time, kind of mentoring us. And he was kind of yelling at us, please stop giving stuff away free. You need to, and he kind of convinced us we should try to charge a little bit, based upon his knowledge of a fellow by the name of Dr. Tom Dooley,
Oh, yeah.
who by coincidence, started a medical clinic in Vietnam.
Right.
Okay, and
Right.
here we are dealing with Vietnamese refugees over
Yeah.
here. And
Ironically,
Tom Dooley would say, you just got to give me something. So they would get an egg, or they would give him a chicken, or some cigarettes, or something, and he would do the medical stuff.
Right.
So you guys got to do the same thing. And what convinced us was, one Saturday went out to go home, and we were driving down Piedmont Street, and all over Piedmont Street were clothes, hanging on people's porches, on cars, bags of clothes all over the street. And I said to Kathy, those are clothes.
Those are our clothes. Yeah.
People were coming in and just grabbing bags of clothes and just tearing them open. So we said, okay,
Wow.
we're going to start charging 10 cents a pound. Okay, and that's how it started. And Charlie can tell you right now what he goes through trying to keep the little store stocked and running, and it's huge.
well, gee, that's amazing. Amazing stories.
Yeah.
I know,
bigger
Charlie,
than
you
that.
have a lot to say, and we want to get to you too. But it's the stories are amazing. They're just unbelievable. You could write a book. We'll have to talk about that. And Charlie, the little store and the flea market, we haven't even, talked about that. Tell us more about what's going on. You guys have so many irons in the fire.
There are a lot of irons in the fire.
There sure are.
But before I get into detail on that, I want to expand on what's been said by Walter and Kathy, because they've told you stories of the beginning. And for 40 years, it didn't stay static. It was dynamic, and it was growing every single year. It got bigger and bigger and bigger. 27 presents one year, 10,000 presents this year.
10,000, can you
All right.
imagine? It's
Giving
amazing.
away clothing to a few people in the beginning. This year, the little store had, what did I say, 22,000 customer transactions.
Yeah.
And then the food pantries, which we'll talk about, they're growing. Urban Missionaries today is a very large organization that has not lost its personality. It's still directed at the least, the last, and the left behind, and it's still personal. I think that's the magic of what they have built. No matter how big it got, it's still personal. So talk about the little store. Kathy said it's the portal into our customer base. It is. It is how we meet people who need things, and it's how we serve that community. So
Gain their trust. And
it's not just those people, but it's the people who've been coming back for 40 years. Coming back almost daily. I've only been here for a year. I spent 45 years in high tech, and this is my reward, is to do something. No, it's true. It's my reward
To
to
work
do
6
something
days a
where I
week.
can actually see the people who benefit. When you build computers, you never see who actually uses
this
them.
is true.
And I can't tell you how important it is to recognize the personal aspect of it still.
It's true.
I have customers every single day. They walk in and they say, Walter and Kathy around? I haven't seen them in a while. And they want to say hello to the people that have been providing for them for 30, 20, 40 years.
Yeah.
And the stories, they go on every day. But the purpose of the little store is to take quality items of clothing, furniture, household items, and get it into the hands of people who could not afford it otherwise. All right, that's the purpose. Now, anybody can shop there. I hope you shop there. I shop there because we need the money. But for people who need a little help, and what we do is we use the bar of if they are receiving food subsidies or other financial subsidies from the state, and they're in a program which we can look up their name and see that they're active getting services from from the state, then we give them a discount card, and they get 30% off
Oh, I
our
didn't know
already
that.
low
Yeah.
prices.
It's
So-
really,
Fabulous.
it's really how we take
So
care
it's-
of the least.
It's every single day we have people who come in and they're buying a bed or a bureau or
That's what my husband used to say.
other things that
Couldn't-
they could never afford it.
They couldn't keep the mattresses in there.
No,
The
we can't today.
mattresses- Yeah.
I put a mattress out
In
there.
bed.
It's gone.
Gone,
It's
right.
gone within a day.
Right, right. Because mattresses are very expensive.
Beds in general.
Yeah, beds in general,
And-
headboards, footboards, they're all expensive.
And I want to emphasize the fact that the little stores there, 100% of our merchandise is donated to us from
Right.
the people of Northborough, from Westborough, from Worcester, from all over the county. And we've risen to the point where we're very strict on, for clothing, for example. We don't put out anything that has a rip or a stain or a smell or anything. That goes to Planet Aid and they repurpose it.
Right, yeah,
We put
that's
out
a good-
only quality pieces of clothing that you or I would wear, and we price them below whatever any other store in the town is pricing them. And then if you walk in, you've got a 30% discount card. You get even
More.
but when I say it's personal, you get to know these people. And for example, there's a woman who comes in once a month, and she fills up a basket with clothing. And it must cost her like $100, $150. And you get to talk to her. No, she's packaging this all up, and it's going back to her country for her people. She is poor here, but she is still giving back
She's
to her home
thinking
country.
about her family.
And that's the impact of what their programs have done. It's not just, okay, we're taking
Far-reaching.
care of 2 people here or 5 people there. It's hitting tens of thousands of
It's so
people.
far-reaching.
It is.
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
like I once, someone told me, you know, you may not know what you do makes an impact, but it does.
So
And, you know.
that's the joy I get out of working hard every day.
Congratulations to you.
Is that
That's
you
very
get you
noble.
see? No, it's not. It's a rewarding. It's truly it's satisfying. I want to mention that we have arrangements with 3 supermarkets who give us bread every day.
Yes.
Wegmans here in Northborough, Price Chopper in Shrewsbury, and the Big Y in Holden. They bring in carts of, we have volunteers that pick up carts of bread and pastries from them every day. And we come in and we stock the shelves so that at 9 o'clock we have a group of daily customers who are coming in to get their bread because we don't give it away. Walter's got a very good rule that virtually everything has to have a price, and that's for a dignity purpose. You know, we're not giving you something, you're buying it.
Right.
All right, and but they can get a nice loaf of Big Y or Price Chopper or Wegmans bread that costs $9 in the supermarket. They'll get it for $1.
And if they have a
card.
loyalty card, they get it for 70
they get it for
cents.
70 cents, right?
You know, and how does that food bank, and I know you wanted to talk about the food bank.
Okay, well, that's a different program, all right?
Okay.
So in addition to the little store, which is our thrift shop, which is, again, please come shop and please donate any of your unwanted items to us. We'll take virtually everything. But we also, one of the major programs that they have started and run for many years is the food pantry at St. Paul's Cathedral. We call it the
A lot of people don't know this, that you're, you know.
St. Oscar
that's-
Romero Food Pantry. It's run in conjunction with St. Paul's. It's on their site. And in that food pantry, we're open Tuesday mornings, Thursday evenings, and Saturday mornings for a couple hours. And people come and we walk them around and we give them maybe a box of food. Something that, quick estimate, would probably cost them $50, $60 or more in the
store.
supermarket. The food is supplied by the Worcester County Food Bank out in Shrewsbury on Route 9.
Right, right.
We
I
go
know
in
where
there-
it is.
I go
Yep.
in there weekly and we pick up meat, produce, canned goods, whatever. They support almost 100 food pantries in Worcester County.
It's very important.
So we have limits, and we have to stay within our limits. But it's, again, very satisfying, and again, very personal. You get to know these people. You get this, I get the same guys walking through and saying, "Hi, Charlie," as they see me, because it's at that level. We're not mass producing, it's not something commercial, it's really helping people, and they appreciate it, and they thank you, and it's personal as we go through it. I think one of the numbers I calculated yesterday is that we distributed 160,000 pounds of food through the pantry at St. Paul's in the last 12 months.
Wow.
And again, we can't do it without volunteers. Volunteers is like the second line on every single program we do. The volunteers at the food pantry come in and they process, they help me set it up, they walk the people through food selection, and I can't say enough about them. They're very special. And it's, again, very satisfying. It's very, the numbers are climbing though.
Yes,
As you
that's-
shop, you know.
Yeah, I do.
And if people on fixed incomes, their food prices have gone up, their rents have gone up, it's very hard for them. So I think our numbers in 2023 almost doubled the number from 2022 of the people that we distributed to.
So in your, in some of the things that you know, I know we're extending this program to an hour to incorporate everything we have to do. And so, you know, time goes by so fast, but I wanted to ask you what you think in your particular sphere is the most important thing too. Besides the personal aspect, which is obviously the community integrating all the trust and everything else that goes into having people depend on you, but not to the point where they're dependent. You know, you give back and you give them a sense of dignity and helping people. So that's the important.
I think in all cases, all the different programs, including Christmas, Little Store, the food pantry, and probably in the refugee support, is that there's really two categories of people. There are the people who just need a little help. That's all they need.
Right, a little kick.
No,
Yeah.
they just need a
Yeah,
little
little
assistance
kick,
to get
yeah.
through, to be more comfortable. Then there are people who have a much deeper and immediate sense of need. They need something now, you know.
Right.
And all the programs are aligned to take care of that. So, for example, if somebody comes in and they just virtually landed here, they have no furniture, they have no nothing, they have no money, you know, Walter will come out and give us a number and say, allow that person to shop here up to this amount.
Yeah.
And they walk out with furniture, you know, table and chairs, a bed, and some food and whatever. That's not our typical customer by any means, but it happens.
It happens.
Every day, or every other day. Same thing in the food pantry is that, you know, we have rules. You can't come every week. You can come twice a month. But once in a while, there's somebody who shows up and they just says, I got nothing. You know, and we look and they got 3 kids at home and we go, okay, this is an emergency one. Let's take you
Right.
through and fill you up. So I think that what's important is to understand we're serving both those communities, the people who just need a little bit of help and the people who need a lot of help.
A lot of help. I know Kathy, yesterday, Kathy, you know, went in, got a beautiful brand new coat, 6T, I think it was.
It was.
We were trying to decide what, but that to me is like the essence of you find a need and you provide that, you know, you help. You may not, you're not going to cure the problem, but it gives them something. And that, you know, that's what it's all about. When you said the people aspect, getting to know these people. Now you can pass that information on to others, and hopefully, like in the future, we'll talk about the future before the program ends, what you guys have on, you know, on the burners for the future, let's say. But the important part of knowing about the urban missionaries is that people can help. This program hopefully will provide someone out there with the information they need to help. Maybe it's what you say, maybe it's what we all say, but that's one of the reasons why we produce these programs, so people understand the area when they go there, what's happening here? What is this all about? Because when you define something, when you educate someone, that's when they understand. Because, you know, if they just go to the little store, they'll say, well, this is a nice little thrift shop. They have no clue what is behind this premise of giving and helping. So,
And
go
there
ahead,
are,
Kathy.
and there are people who see the store only as the little store, but
Right.
there are, as Charlie said, the regulars who come. It's quite humbling. A few weeks ago, one of the regulars came up to me, and she was a little teary, and she said, would you guys please pray for my brother? He passed away last night.
Oh.
And there's another lady who came in and said, could you please pray for my grandson? And it's quite
Yeah.
humbling
It
to
is.
be that in a person's life.
It is, because they trust you. You know, they trust you, and
I think
they,
that's the most important. They respect you.
yeah,
And-
trust and respect is an unbelievable
So we have a lot of
combination.
people who actually walk to the store. You know,
I
right
was
in-
just
we're
going to
in-
say that,
we're in a-
Charlie. You took the words right out of my mouth.
We're in a nice populated neighborhood, and it's not affluent. A lot of people don't have cars. They walk to the store every day, and they buy this, they buy that, get their bread or whatever. And then we have some people who like to drive in from the suburbs and do it. So we have, again, it's a wide spectrum of clients. But all of them we try to treat personally.
That's right, and that's a wonderful thing. That's a wonderful, you know, a lovely idea. Don't you wish we could all do that all the time, huh? That's true. But I know, Kathy, you have obviously a lot to say, and there's so much that we could ask you about this, that, and the next thing. But I want you to key in on what you feel is most important. Charlie, you know, that part of the personal, you know, the piece of the puzzle, and you have so many other pieces that go together you want to talk about.
So personal for me, it's our roots. Our roots were in refugee resettlement, and we feel that it's still an important part of the work that we do, and at the heart of everything. So I do a lot of work with immigration, and
Yeah, tell us about that.
So we don't do resettlement anymore. We sort of did that until there were some national volunteer organizations that came to Worcester, and they were taking over resettlement, and so we started to focus on what people needed after they came here.
Right.
And we concentrated a little bit on building up the little store, and maybe some English classes, and
Yeah,
some
English as a second language.
right,
kind of
and some citizenship classes, and we had some collaborations back a while ago with Central Las Americas and International Rescue Committee, and then more recently with Notre Dame Healthcare. They came to us. What a nice collaboration it's been over the years, because they were, as part of their mission, helping people who worked in healthcare, nursing homes and things like that, who were very often immigrants, helping them to become citizens. So they asked for our help to sort of help them through that process. So over the years, that program developed. It did develop.
Evolved.
So people would come to me to do their paperwork, and we would make sure they were eligible and they were okay to proceed to become citizens, and then they would go back to Notre Dame, where they would study with residents of Notre Dame who were retired teachers.
Wow.
And they would do the studying. It was a great program, and they still do it to some extent, but it's not as much as it was. But it was great. It was a great program.
You had a lot. I know many times when I would talk to you, you were doing grants, trying to get some kind of help or whatever. You've done a lot with that too.
We did have some grants. The Sister Alice Petty program that we started was a sort of vocational program. So at times it worked. We had grants to help people get jobs or to get people ready for
Right,
jobs.
that's what I remember doing.
Right.
You did a lot of that too. That was very important, but I know we're running out of time, but we're going to, I just want to go over some other things too.
Okay.
I know that you wanted to talk about the mentoring and the student incentive program and the collaborations you talked about briefly. But tell us about the student incentive program and the mentoring studies, and you know, tell us quickly how that all evolved and stuff.
So, well, back years ago, we did citizenship and English classes just like everybody else. But it occurred to me that there were people who didn't feel comfortable in a class.
That setting, yeah.
And so, and we had some volunteers who were teachers or who had taught some English and could do citizenship prep. But we
That's
decided
quite a process too.
it is. To do it on a one-to-one basis. So this is individual mentoring for people who don't feel comfortable in a class. And so there's been some nice success with that. People who feel like they can ask their questions and they won't get laughed at. And,
right. That's a big part of trying to help someone. Getting as a teacher, it's getting, I feel, the right way to teach someone. That is very important. Right. I mean, as a teacher, I found that a lot of times if someone is very, very bright, you know, you don't have to work almost as hard to, you know, but if they have, you know, a language barrier,
there's language,
right, or something else,
literacy, there's
social
all of it.
Problems that interfere with their learning process. So that's a big. How's that going?
So it's very nice.
Good.
It's we still have one retired teacher and another teacher who sometimes does it if I have a student. But
that's nice to know. So what we wanted to talk, I know, Walter, we want you to get into everybody to join in, but we want you did a lot of, I know you've done this before, but I don't know much about it, a student incentive program. Yeah, what is that about?
That came out of a very interesting, that ties into the St. Stephen's Housing Initiative. We have a family who came to us maybe 8 or 9 years ago, and the man walked in and he said, I've been all over Worcester, and everybody tells me you people are the ones I should be dealing with. Oh. He says, I have $20,000. I want you to put it in an investment account, and I want you to take the interest that you're earning, and I want you to help out students that need books or sneakers for sports or this or that, and immigration things. And it tied into the problems Kathy was having, because the expenses of immigration are really high.
Right.
You know.
And burdensome on some people.
Yeah, burden people. Yeah.
So he came back 2 years later and gave us another $10,000. So that fund now is a $30,000 fund that we manage.
Wow.
Okay. And then he came back and said, there needs to be a place for newly arrived refugees to come and live when they first get here and get settled in and learn about the United States and learn how to function as a tenant, and hopefully they'll be able to buy a house.
Right.
And so he gave us $374,000, and we bought this house on Colton Street called the St. Stephen's Housing Initiative. And we put in 3 families in there. They have to come to class once a month. It's a training class. It's to acclimate them to the American kind of living and style and all that kind of stuff.
Acclimate them
Responsible,
be responsible tenants.
Yeah.
And
wonderful.
When the rent was $800 a month, because he wanted them to be able to save money so they could buy a house of their own. So the whole program is geared to bringing them in and getting
Making
ready
them
to
independent.
become a house owner
Yep.
of their own.
And then go
okay?
on.
Because they work very hard. A lot of refugees, we come in, refugees especially, they don't go to welfare. They go right to work within days.
Yeah.
That's our experience over 40 years. Right to
Wow.
work within days. They work very hard. They accumulate cash and stuff like that, and they buy a house, which
That's-
is the American dream.
That's the American
Yeah,
dream. There
right.
you go.
Right. So then, so we got the house, and we got the house staffed, and we already have had 2 families move out and buy houses of their own.
Wonderful.
Within 3 years
Wow.
of the start of the program.
Within 3 years.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? That's
So, yeah.
totally amazing.
So then he came back to us and said, you know, I have these refugees kids that are in school. They're doing really well. A lot of them are on the honor roll. I'd like to give them something that would incentivize them to keep going and keep studying. So he came up with this idea of, why don't you let them volunteer at your place, and I'll give you some money, and you can pay them a stipend every week.
Oh, that's
Okay?
wonderful.
So each student gets a $30 stipend per week for 3 hours of volunteering.
Wow.
And that program's been in play almost 5 years. We're starting our 5th year.
So
So
many.
not the same as
Yeah,
kids,
but-
it
but
changes it over.
Changes, but
Yeah.
so many facets of
Well,
the organization.
What that does, what that
Unbelievable.
speaks to is the way we function. You know, we're out in the marketplace, we're seeing things, and we will take initiatives to address problems.
Right.
So, you know, that's what we do, and we've been very blessed with the number of people who have come to us and said, hey, that's a great idea, here's some money to do it.
Right.
And they support us in that way. And, you know, like Kathy was talking about, used to have citizenship classes, but when everybody else started citizenship classes, we just stopped.
Right.
Because we didn't need them anymore, and we moved on to something else.
The need. You
The
moved
need.
on to the need,
And the need is,
and then put
Saw
a
another
program.
need.
Yeah,
So-
and then put a program in place.
we finally created a program called Pastoral Outreach, which reaches into all the programs that we have and
Wow.
helps people.
Wow.
So when Charlie calls me up and says, I have a lady up front, or I have a family up front, and needs some help, I will go out, and it shifts from the little store to Pastoral Outreach, and I then have some money that people have donated to us that I can allocate a voucher for them to buy $200, $300, $400, what I think what that family needs to
Right.
get started,
Right.
you know.
So when the need is present, it's fixed.
Right.
Well, it's not fixed entirely, but
Right.
it's moderated,
Addressed, yeah,
addressed,
yeah.
or
Right.
whatever.
And that has opened up a whole new, not a new area, but an area that we can address very personal programs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we had one young man, he was living by himself in a little basement apartment, 2-room basement apartment with a bathroom. The only problem is it had electric heat. And so he wouldn't turn the electric heat on, but he would walk around with a portable heater, and whatever room he was in, he would plug the heater in that room. And it was and he was surviving very well on his you know, income, Social Security support, and he was surviving well. But unfortunately, his brother was very sick, came to live with him. His brother was dying.
Oh, gosh.
And so he pumped up the heat. They had to keep the heat on to make the brother comfortable. The brother finally passed away. And then the big electric bill hit.
Right.
And he had no way
Of paying
of
it.
paying that bill. None. And, you know, he just didn't have it. We looked at his finances. He couldn't pay it off. Even with the payment plan, he couldn't pay that
Couldn't
bill
pay
off.
it off.
And
Well,
so-
electric heat is notorious
Right.
anyway.
Yeah.
to
So
begin
we
with.
said, okay, give us permission to talk to the electric company, see what we can do. So we talked to the electric company and said, what's the bill right now? I believe it was around $1,400, okay? And they're charging him interest,
Oh,
okay, on it.
gosh.
All right? So we said, okay. We paid the bill off $1,400 to stop the interest rate for this young man, okay? And then we turned around and said, okay, now you can pay us back at $50 a month interest-free. You know, and that's what he does. Every month we get a payment of $50 and he pay it off. That's the whole nature of who we are.
Right.
You know, you see a problem and we either solve it ourselves or
mitigate
we
the
find
problem.
somebody to solve it, you know, and the beat goes on. The beat goes on in a
The
very-
beat goes on. I like that.
So Marie, earlier I mentioned that a day doesn't go by that someone doesn't come in and say, "Where's Walter and Kathy? I want to say
Right.
hello." I'd say it was probably 5 or 6 months ago, this very distinguished businessman walked into the little store. Not our typical customer. This man had made it in life and he was doing very good. And he says, "Where's Walter and Kathy?" And I said, "I'm sorry, they're not here today. They're someplace else." And he says, "Well, I came to this city with nothing 30 years ago. And it was only because of them that he was able to
Wow.
prosper, come back, and say thank you." I mean, the cycle happens. These are not people who we just help and they go away and they suffer some other way. It's done in a way that allows them to grow and step, become more successful, and they all come back and they say thank you.
That's an amazing.
Right.
That's an amazing testimony.
Right, and it is, but there are still more needs.
Oh,
And
there's
we're
always.
looking at two very big ones right now that we're
Tell
trying to
us
figure
about
out.
the future, and I want
Yeah,
you to tell
this-
us about what's going on.
Yeah, this is what we're trying to figure out. There's two items that we're trying to figure out right now. One is housing. There's a terrible need for emergency housing in the city of Worcester, okay? We just need to come up with some kind of a strategy, because if somebody gets burnt out, they can move to families and stuff, but some people can't. Or if something happens, they lose their job that day, and all of a sudden they find themselves, or they get evicted out of their house. This small interim thing of housing, you know, is a real...
Housing.
Yeah, okay. The other problem
Yeah.
is what we call the great hidden problem, and that's with the elderly.
Yes.
All right? So a number of years we've gone into families' homes, pick up furniture. Charlie and his guys are doing it now. But when you go into an elderly house, it's completely different. Okay? And you notice things, that their houses are dirty. They're not clean. And over the years we've developed a kind of an idea that when you get older, you don't see the dirt. Or you don't have the energy to even clean the dirt.
That's
or you
true.
physically
Right.
can't clean the
You can't
dirt.
physically, you're not
Okay?
able.
And there's nothing they really can do. So we were just starting this program, and then COVID hit, and we had to suspend it. But we would go into a house, and we would do a partnership with the parish, get a bunch of kids down there, for 5 or 6 kids, buckets of water and, you know, soap and sponges, and we would clean the house in a day, you know, and just freshen up their life.
Right.
One thing. That's really the kinds of things that we're looking at.
So are you going to start that program back up
Yeah,
again?
we're
or
talking
how
about
is
it now.
that-
Yeah.
How is that going? Yeah.
Well, we're going to give Charlie a little more time to get him settled a bit, but yeah, that will kick up.
Charlie's
Yeah.
got a lot on the
You got a
the
lot on his plate.
docket.
You got a lot
No,
on
but
his
it
plate.
is very important, and we don't want to get stagnant. You know, I have to learn how to see the world from their eyes, which I'm learning, because they see the need. And when you see the need, then you can act. If you just gloss over the need, it's not there. But they're good mentors.
They are. They certainly are. Tell us about the future.
Well, we're starting these two programs, you know, if we can solve those, would be big programs. But there are other things will be coming through. There'll be always other programs. You know, the good Lord said it, you know, you'll always have the poor with you, and believe me, they're there. It hasn't diminished. With all the work that we've done, all the man hours we've spent, all the money we've put into this problem, okay, and I turn around and it's just as big as it
Was before.
You know, and I tell people that I'm really a sandcastle builder at the beach. Okay, every morning I go out and I build my sandcastles all day long, okay, and then I go home and the next morning I go out and there's no sandcastles.
There's just
And I
nothing
have
there.
to build all the sandcastles again. It just keeps coming.
Yeah, you guys are, that's a great analogy with the sandcastle.
Yeah,
it is.
It is. And people say, don't you get tired of it? When are you going to retire and get
I
out
know.
of this business? Aren't you tired of this? And I can't. It's too joyful. There's so much joy in this. Believe it or not, we get down and we start to talk as a group of people, the employees and stuff. It's a very happy group of people.
It's a
You know,
very- it's
with
a
all
very
of the
happy
stuff
group
that
there.
they
Yeah.
see and all of the problems that we deal with, there's still this joy that sits in doing this work.
And we are really willing to share that joy with volunteers who want to come in
yeah.
and volunteer
That's
at
part
the
of this
store.
We
program.
invite you all.
You know, we want volunteers, right?
I mean,
But they do share the joy. So we couldn't run the little store without volunteers. We couldn't run the Christmas program without volunteers. We couldn't run the pantry without volunteers.
That's right.
all of these initiatives are, yes, initiated by urban missionaries, but it's the volunteers who come, and we'll take anything. If you have an hour,
Right.
one time, please come, we'll keep you busy. If you can do a couple hours a week on a regular basis, that's even better, because we can train you to do something, and then we don't have to retrain you. If you can come on a regular basis,
That's even
but
better.
you want, to be able to take the days off now and again, that's fine too. So the volunteers are extremely important to all of our programs, and we couldn't do it without them. So.
Absolutely.
And the other thing we can't do without is the donations of goods, household goods, furnitures. If you're downsizing, please think of us, and please
Absolutely.
come by the store. You can.
Absolutely. Donations, that's
Right.
what we're thinking. Well, I guess, folks, we're kind of run out of time.
Wow.
An hour went by very fast.
Didn't it, though?
I mean, this has been an incredible experience, and I feel very privileged as a facilitator to be able to be sitting here among you three today. And I want to thank you again for being my guest on Close to Home.
Thank you for
very
having
much.
us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, audience, for being here with us today.